Hello, and welcome to TP's Music Talk podcast. My name is Ryan Ford.
And I'm Nick Replinger.
And you can find us at our website, tpmusictalkpod.wordpress.com.
And you can also find us at anchor.fm/TP Music Talk Podcast and other major podcasting platforms by searching for TP's Music Talk Podcast.
You can find us on other social media as well, like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and others by searching for TP Music Talk Podcast or for TP Music Talk Pod on Twitter. Just look for our logo.
And you can also email us at tpmusictalkpodcast@gmail.com.
We also have shared playlists on Apple Music and Spotify that you can check out by searching TP's Music Talk Podcast as well.
And don't forget to click the link in the description and leave us a voice message on Anchor. And feel free to leave us a message or a review anywhere you're listening. It really helps us out, and don't forget, donations are always appreciated. You can find a link to donate in the description of any of our episodes.
No part of our show can be reproduced without permission or written consent.
Hey Ryan, what are you doing this weekend?
Yeah, man, I'm hanging out with McKay. We're going to take a look at his latest engravings and talk about giveaways for I Engrave stuff.
Oh yeah, that's awesome, especially about those giveaways. And you know, I was on the internet the other day and I saw these ads for these other engraving services, and man, their prices are expensive.
Yeah, man. A lot of those other engraving companies will charge you up the wazoo for things. But I've noticed that McKay's company, they have items that are priced very reasonably, making it affordable, especially this year, to get a personalized and really impactful gift. Get your parents something that is heartfelt with your signature, or you can even do a letter in your own handwriting on something.
Oh yeah, that's right. And you can even send a scan of your handwriting on a letter, and they can engrave it onto a sign, a bottle, or whatever you can think of. The possibilities are endless with them.
Yeah, and right now, if you're in the checkout area, you can type in TP10 in all caps in the promo code box, and you'll get an extra 10% off. A gift from us. Go to iengravestuff.com today. Hello, and welcome back to Transmitter. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Nick.
And we are here yet again to talk about some more music. Big surprise.
Whoa.
We don't have much housekeeping today before we get started. The only thing I can think of to tell you guys is Nick and I will be doing a photo shoot here later this month and hopefully getting some new photos to put on our website. If you haven't checked out our website in a little while, hopefully by the time this episode is up or soon after, we will have some new photos and some fresh content on our website for you to enjoy. Aside from that, I can't think of anything. Can you, Nick?
No, I think that's pretty much everything. But what we have planned for tonight's episode, we're kind of making this our last hurrah for rock. And after this episode, we're going to try and jump into another genre. We're thinking most likely hip hop. We might change it. We're still trying to make up our minds. But for tonight, we're going to talk about two separate albums that both Ryan and I chose. Mine, which we'll talk about first, is Dead Set Society, and then Ryan's, he chose
3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge by My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, so we hope you enjoy it, and yeah, I guess we'll get right into it.
Sounds good. And so when we say it's our last hurrah for rock, I mean, we are going to revisit rock at some point. And, we'll probably go a lot more in depth when we do come back to it. Our first 10, 11 episodes here have been mainly to kind of establish and get our sound right and just briefly talk about, very topically and casually about the rock genre because that's what we grew up with. And I mean, everybody, I think the majority of people like rock music and are interested in it. So we figured that would be a good place to start. But yeah, so that was kind of our thought. And, for those of you that love rock music and are sad that we're steering away from it, don't worry, we will come back to it and we'll be talking, we'll probably even talk about metal music and some of the harder rock genres at some point as well.
So Dead Set Society. So Dead Set Society is a Canadian rock group, although they are originally formed as My Darkest Days. So when My Darkest Days first formed, they had a #1 active rock charts hit. They were discovered by Chad Kroeger of Nickelback, and they had their first single, Porn Star Dancing, and they rose up into fame and it got a lot of radio play. And then they were having some kind of difficulties and they went on hiatus, and then Matt Walsh then left for 3 Days Grace. You can check out all that on when we talked about our 3 Days Grace episode and what happened with Matt Walsh after that. But after that, My Darkest Days was kind of over. And so basically Dead Set Society, well, first they formed as Never Say Die, and then later renamed themselves as Dead Set Society. And they have one album that came out in 2017 called Destroy and Rebuild. And the reason why I wanted to do this album, I listened to the album when it first, well, not the album, but they had their first single come out in 2017, and boy, I was very impressed with it, and I listened to it over and over and over. But for some reason, I didn't listen to the rest of the album, and then just maybe like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I saw the single Like a Nightmare, and I was like, why didn't I listen to the rest of the album? And I did, and like, whoa, I was very blown away. I love every single track on this album, which is why I wanted to talk about them as my choice for an album for this last rock-themed episode.
Yeah, and just kind of to mirror your sentiments there, I feel like it kind of fits in perfectly. Their sound is very similar to what you and I grew up with. They're connected to a lot of bands that we've already talked about, and I really enjoyed the album too. Nick told me about it a week or two ago, and I had downloaded their EP a year or two back, and I was going to check it out, but never did. And then when Nick told me to listen to it, I revisited it. And yeah, it's an amazing album. Anyway, I'll let you take it away from here.
Alrighty, so if you go onto their website, deadsetsociety.com, they have a little introduction of who they are and where they came from, and I'm just going to go ahead and read that for you guys. So when you pull it up, it says, "We are Dead Set Society. Dead Set Society is a rock band from Toronto, Canada. It's not often a platinum-selling band with a #1 song in the US announces they're going on hiatus. But that was the case when My Darkest Days singer Matt Walsh was given the opportunity to front Canadian rock legends 3 Days Grace. Dead Set Society, formerly known as Never Say Die, started in the front passenger seat of My Darkest Days bandwagon. We had a relentless tour schedule," says Reed Henry, lead vocals and guitar. "During our overnight drives, I'd squeeze through the small window of the front of the bus and stay up writing, singing, and occasionally wedging my laptop on the dashboard to record. Over the next year, Dead Set Society remained a studio project of Reed and My Darkest Days bandmate Brendan McMillan on bass. In 2016, Reed's demos caught the interest of producer/engineer Evans Blue, Parabelle Scarlet White, and drummer Age of Days Mike Langford. The band began recording an EP that evolved into an album. With the addition of Mike's longtime tour mate and singer/songwriter Dane Hardsell, guitar and vocals, what started out as a dream for Reed, Dead Set Society has quickly become a reality. With their debut album Destroy and Rebuild, released early 2017 as Never Say Die, their single Like a Nightmare peaking at #3 on Sirius XM Octane's Big Uns Countdown, Media Base US Top 40 Active Rock, and Top 30 Canada Active Rock, over 2.5 million streams on Spotify and 100 plus shows since hitting the road in January 2017, it's apparent Dead Set Society has positioned themselves to continue off where My Darkest Days left off.
Yeah, so sorry for like the lengthy kind of introduction there, but I mean, that kind of wraps up what the band is about, where they came from.
And it's in their own words and kind of like where they came from and how they kind of formed and where they came to be. And I think it just paints a clear picture of who they are.
Yeah, and getting into the album, their popular singles off of it, well, you've got Like a Nightmare, which, I mean, hits so hard from the get-go. It's the second song on the album. The whole album is very, very well produced and very clean cut. They definitely had a vision for it, I feel like.
Yeah, like I think, he knew what he wanted to write and how it went. And I feel like that there's a lot of elements of My Darkest Days still in there, but it still has other hints. Like Ryan has told me that he feels like they got a Linkin Park feel, right? And
Yeah, like some of their riffs remind me so much of early Linkin Park, like maybe Meteoridays or Hybrid Theory. They also have other influences, I think. You know, you can definitely almost catch a little bit of a Nickelback vibe. You definitely have some My Darkest Days type sound. And then, honestly, I think it sounds a little bit like a 3 Days Grace record as well.
Yeah, and I definitely you can tell that they really look up to 3 Days Grace and that they're good buddies and friends with them. I mean, which makes sense because Mark Walst used to be their frontman until he left for 3 Days Grace. But I'm sure there's still plenty of influences from My Darkest Days that still fall into this band that can give kind of a 3 Days Grace feel to this. Going into some of the songs on here, I mean, there's just so much to choose from. Like every single song on this album I absolutely love. There's not one I dislike. I mean, it's kind of hard to rank them, but I definitely think Like a Nightmare, which was the first single from the album, I don't know if the other ones ever made it to single status or not, but they're just great all together songs. My personal favorite probably would be Desperate Times. That one was really good. And of course, Automatic and Numb and Since You've Gone Away were really good ones too. And then surprisingly, I didn't like it at first, but Rearview Mirror has grown on me as well.
Oh, yeah. And those would be some of my favorites as well. I really liked Like a Nightmare, Automatic. Since You've Gone Away is a great opener. Desperate Times is great. I like the sounds and instrumentation on Born Again. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite songs on there, but it definitely, I don't know, it has a Linkin Park vibe to it. And that's something else I want to bring up as we talk about this. You know, another reason we wanted to talk about this album is it just reminds both of us, I think, so much of the music we grew up with and the music that we've talked about so far on this show. You know, as we're kind of just saying our sentimental goodbyes to rock and roll today, we just felt like it was a good one to talk about.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. What else did you think about the album as you listened to it the past, I guess, week and a half? What are some thoughts and impressions that you get from Dead Set Society?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely very excited to see what they do going forward. I feel like this album is really good and hits really hard. It definitely has a hard rock vibe to it, which I enjoy. I think that the vocals and instrumentation are great. Yeah, I'm just excited to see more from these guys. And I think it's so cool that they were able to carry on even after Matt Walst left. Because, you know, Adam Gontier created his own band, Saint Sonia, and then Matt Walst moved to 3 Days Grace, and now these guys are going. It's really just a trio of amazing artists and music. So it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping that they come up with another album. I mean, this album came out 3 years ago, so hopefully they'll come out with something new, because that's the typical, I guess you could say, cycle for most rock bands and artists, where they come out with an album and it takes maybe about a year and a half to make, and then they tour in that for 3 years. But of course, also with the quarantine happening, you know, everything in the entertainment and media industries has kind of been put on a halt. And so I'm hoping that these guys weren't hit hard by that. I haven't heard anything about that, but I'm hoping that they're still gonna come out with new music and that they'll still be doing well. Because when I listen to this album, it's like, I absolutely love that hard, heavy, distorted guitar. I mean, it's one of the things that got me loving 3 Days Grace so much. It's like, there's not, significant two lead and rhythm guitars like maybe you might hear with Avenged Sevenfold, but it's just one guitar that just hits you so hard when this is just like boom,
No, I know exactly what you're saying. Like, and I was talking to you about this before we started. I feel like a lot of their riffs hit really hard, and they actually allow time for the listener to breathe. You know, you'll get hit with a really hard lift and they actually will pause for a few seconds before you get hit with the next one. Like, it was very well thought out, and I love the way the guitar sounds. And they even have like some electronic sounds. In a lot of ways, it kind of is a throwback to nu metal as well. I don't know. It's just such a good and kind of unique album in this time period. I feel like there's not a lot of rock albums coming out that sound like this anymore.
No, it's kind of a rare gem, I guess you could say, and that's what I love about it. Because I also love the techno keyboard sounds that you have throughout the album. I think it's in every single song on here, but when you get that heavy distorted guitar, but then you get those techno-y sounding things from the synth on there, I don't know, it's just such a good mixture in it, and that's where I get the Linkin Park feels, from this album.
Yeah. The only really critiquing that I personally can do with this one, and it's just my thoughts and opinions on it, is I feel like there's more than a few songs that are kind of like love songs, and I don't know, maybe just at some points they're sounding a little bit generic. I would have liked to see them delve a little deeper on some of their lyrics on some of these songs. But, I mean, that's just getting nitpicky with it, honestly. I love every song on here, and I think they sound great, too.
Yeah, because, I mean, in my personal opinion, when it comes to the songwriting in the lyrics, I think they're very well thought out personally. Although there are a few love songs on here, but there are the other songs that are about totally different things. Like, the love songs that are on here are Automatic, Desperate Times, although that's more of like, just telling your ex to get lost. But I think... I can't remember. It was Fall Apart, one of them, or not. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think Something Left to Save was kind of romantically oriented, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, that's just getting nitpicky with it on my end. And it is their first album that they've put together as well. So typically bands, when they release their first album, they aren't quite at their peak yet. Yeah,
I mean, like, although sometimes with a lot of bands, their second album is the one that's the top, and then it's just downhill from there.
Yeah, I mean, there's exceptions to everything, like always, when it comes to music, but...
Yeah, but... Either way, I think this one was a great and solid album. I've absolutely loved it. I'm still listening to it and, learning and memorizing the lyrics as I listen to them. Some of these songs I've been listening to over and over on repeat. Like Desperate Times was one of those, and so was Automatic as well. And over the past, couple years, Like a Nightmare was also one of those that I listened to a lot as well, because it was the only one I really listened to off the album when it first came out.
Yeah, and I'm excited to continue listening to it. I've listened to it all the way through a couple times, but I definitely need to delve into it a little bit more and get more familiar with it, because I'm loving it. But I feel like this is also a good time to bring up, and we'll talk about this more at the end as well, but it has been kind of a hard time right now. 2020 has been a little rough for everyone, I think. There were fires in Australia. We've got the pandemic going on with the coronavirus.
And then now all the political unrest with the riots over George Floyd going across the country. And
Yeah, and we kind of want to say, just kind of tell you what we think about that. And, we've got something kind of put together to share with you at the end of this episode. So yeah, we'll come back and circle around to that later. But
yeah, it's nice to find, I guess the whole point of us saying that, it's nice to find something like this in this time of, I guess you could say, turmoil for everybody, because nobody really seems to be happy with what's going on in the world right now. No one seems to like the status quo or anything, and everybody wants to get back to the way things were. But it's kind of hard to say that things are going to go back to the way they were with all these big things that have been going on. I mean, it kind of feels like the world is evolving, but people were kind of happy how it was before, although there are some things that still need to change too. But it's nice to find something like this, it's from 3 years ago, and it's like, wow, this was a really nice album for me and for my personal music taste, just to be like, whoa, I was very pleasantly surprised by this album, and I've been loving listening to this album, because I have a half-hour commute to work every day, and so I've just been putting this on and listening to that, and I'm just jamming out into it, and it makes my commute all that much more better. I mean, music has that powerful effect on us for most everybody, if not everybody. I mean, like, music is an escape and a release, and I think a lot of us need that during these times.
Yeah, well said, man. Well said. I mean, I couldn't agree more, as usual. And yeah, we need music in these times, and, we need music to bring us all together. And that's it. And we wanted to talk about all this today because, as we're closing out talking about rock and roll, we wanted to take a look back at our roots and the past, and we wanted to look at what's going on right now and try to find some happiness in all of it.
Yeah. And so then I think that brings us, I think we've said everything that we need to say about Dead Set Society and their album Destroy and Rebuild. Unless you want to add any other things, I think this would be a perfect time to transition into the past of going to My Chemical Romance.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of to say is, if you haven't listened to it, go ahead and check it out, because it's not a super mainstream album, I feel like. And if you like hard rock, this one might just be up your alley. But yeah, getting into My Chemical Romance, I feel like we haven't talked about them a whole lot on this show so far.
Yeah, which is kind of surprising, because My Chemical Romance is one of those bands that's going to become, even though they disbanded, I don't know how long ago it was. It was a long time ago they disbanded.
It was after 2010. So, I mean, we're going on...
almost a decade ago.
Yeah.
Although recently, before, the pandemic and everything, they did come back for a reunion tour. And man, that exploded. It was huge. They would sell out arenas. Like, I even looked into getting tickets for their show in Las Vegas. And it was like, because I was willing to drive all the way down there just to see them because, I was that big of a My Chemical Romance fan. And at the top of the arena, in the nosebleed section, their tickets were $500 each.
Yeah,
those were the cheapest tickets, $500 to see them, and they sold out.
Yeah, they're still very popular and still very mainstream today, which is funny because when they came out, they kind of went with, they were in the whole goth punk scene, and, which was popular back in the time, but kind of has faded out, I think, over the years. But just they were so genuine and original that they're still very popular today.
Yeah, and they're definitely going to be one of those bands that's going to be the cult classic following where people are still going to listen to their music decades later, kind of like Nirvana or The Cure or Metallica, bands like that that'll probably be famous for many generations to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like they're most well known for their album, The Black Parade, Welcome to the Black Parade.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that album was the anthem of our generation. I think most people who are around our age, they would say that the album and the song was just something that they loved. And when they hear it, they just got to stop and listen to it because it means something so much to us in our generation. Kind of like how Smells Like Teen Spirit was the anthem for a lot of people of that era and generation.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was tempted to talk about that one, to have us talk about that album, because it was very influential and will be for a very long time to come. But I feel like their album right before that, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, that came out in 2004, is kind of a secret hidden gem of My Chemical Romance, which is why I wanted to talk about it today. It was the follow-up to their album, I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love. And pretty much every My Chemical Romance album has some sort of concept to it. And the concepts were a little looser in their first 2 albums. But 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge does have a bit of a concept to it. Gerard Way, the singer for My Chemical Romance, he's never actually confirmed this, but the listeners have put together sort of a concept that goes along with their first 2 albums. So the album I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love, which came out 2 years before, was supposed to be kind of about 2 lovers that were running from a town that was invaded by vampires. At least that's what some people will say. It hasn't been confirmed by Gerard Way. And then the album 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, so at the end of their first album, the gentleman's lover actually dies. And in the album 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, it's the story of the gentleman making a deal with the devil in order to try and bring his love back from the dead. Anyway, that's all very conceptual and technical, and who knows if it's true, but...
I have something very interesting because, I loved My Chemical Romance growing up and listening to them, but I never really listened to all their albums all the way through from start to finish like I did with a lot of albums later on in high school, because I discovered My Darkest Days in junior high, in which I would just listen to songs that I really liked and listen to those ones a lot. And then maybe the rest of them I wouldn't give them a second glance. And so it's kind of interesting because I had no idea that those were concept albums. I thought the Black Parade was their only concept album, but then Ryan told me that theory. He's like, oh, wow, interesting. And I want to go back and listen to I Gave You My Bullets, You Gave Me Your Love, and then go into 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge and see if I can piece together what my theory is on those 2 concept albums. You've heard it a million times, but that's because it's worth it.
I engrave stuff.
Need something engraved?
I engrave stuff.
Need some gifts for holidays and birthdays that are actually cool and can be totally personalized to your liking?
I engrave stuff. Check out their social medias. I see an Instagram giveaway very often, and they're actually legit. Connect by going to iengravestuff.com.
Another thing they have is an engraving service. If you have a thermos or a bottle or a baseball glove or anything you can think of, all you have to do is get in touch with the awfully friendly people from iengravestuff.com, and one of their laser experts can get an estimate to you. It's super simple, and they work hard to make it easy to explore your engraving ideas.
And if you go to iengravestuff.com and you're shopping, be sure to type in TP10 in all caps in the promo code box at checkout. That'll get you 10% off. Check out iEngraveStuff today. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different theories. That's just one of them. And like I said, nothing has been confirmed. But, you know, a lot of their really hardcore fans really appreciate these albums because they kind of have a story built into them that they've found. And anyway, to kind of get into the album itself, I'm going to read the summary from Apple Music here really quick. It says, on their mainstream breakthrough, My Chemical Romance flash impressive hardcore metal and goth punk bona fides, gnarly thrashing riffs announce Thank You for the Venom, while the mosh fomenting Give 'em Hell Kid and To the End boast charred guitars and Gerard Way's vocal desperation. Yet Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge shows an obsession with duality. Lyrics contrast life and death, pleasure and pain, darkness and light. This adds thematic depth and gives mellower moments like the Curesque grayscale moodiness in The Ghost of You room to flourish. So, I mean, that's a pretty good summary of what the album sounds like and the genre of it, I would say. And
yeah, listening to the album, because you know, I listened to this one all from track 1 to track 13? Yeah, 13. And it's like, it was interesting to listen to. It's like, wow, yeah, this album, when it comes to the riffs and the music, it's very chaotic, I feel. And if it does fall into that theory of he's making a deal with the devil to get his love back, it makes a little bit of sense why it's so everywhere with the guitars and the riffs and the music. Because going back to Dead Society, it's all very smooth and it's all very similar and it just straight line. And I feel like this album, Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge, it's all over the place. It's very chaotic, but it's still very pleasant to listen to at the same time as well.
Yeah, and it's very emotional at certain points, like, you know, the very first song, for example, Helena, it's actually a song that Gerard Way put together in memory of his grandmother who had passed away. You know, so Helena, or So Long and Good Night, you can feel the emotion in his voice as he's singing that song. Yeah,
and I remember growing up, Helena, I think, was actually the very first song I ever heard by My Chemical Romance. I discovered the music video on YouTube back in junior high, and I didn't like it, so I never finished the music video. I was like, yeah, I didn't really like that. And then later on, I found out the song, I found the Black Parade, and that's what really got me into them. So I was like, I don't really like that song, but listening to it now, I was like, wow, why did I not like this? It's like, I love it now, but maybe it's just because my music taste and stuff has changed a little bit since then, but I love it, and it's a golden track on here, I think, and I think they just add so much more to it. You know that it's about Gerard Way's grandmother.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you say that, because I feel like as I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate this band more, just because I feel like there's a lot of dark and kind of adult concepts in all of their songs. I mean, just look at the Black Parade. I mean, that's a concept album about a man who has cancer. Yeah. You know, which is a very adult and kind of morbid concept.
I mean, that's why Gerard Way, you know, during that era of My Chemical Romance, he cut his hair and dyed his hair bleach blonde for those who have had cancer, you know, gone through chemotherapy and all that stuff.
Yeah. And there are other songs on here, you know, all concepts aside, you know, there's some very enjoyable songs on here if you're just looking for, you know, a song that kind of boasts teenage angst. Like I'm Not Okay, I Promise is a great, you know, great hurrah to teenagers, I feel like. Mm-hmm. You've also got Thank You for the Venom, which is...
That one is my new, like, I had never heard that song before I listened to the album all the way through. It was one of those I just always skipped over. Oh my gosh, I love the guitar in that one. It's like, it's just so, you know, it's like, whoa, is this really My Chemical Romance? Like, it's so different because I'm so used to the smooth but heavy guitars. And this one, it's, you know, it's fast paced and I don't know how else to describe it. It's like, wow, I didn't realize that they had, you know, guitarists like that in here. And it's just like, it's a really, really good one if you love, you know, heavy distorted guitar and very intricate riffs and melodies.
Yeah, well, and I feel like this is one of their harder albums, you know, because the Black Parade was a very kind of hard rock album as well, but they kind of toned down some of the sort of scream lyrics and things. It wasn't quite as chaotic and raw. In this one, you can still hear a lot of the rawness that they were known for in the beginning.
Yeah, like I feel like there's not, I mean, there's a little bit of in there, but you know, it's like in the Black Parade, the album after this, you hear a little some of the bells and whistles that they added to that. But this one, it's like you say, it's more raw. It's more just guitars, bass, drums, and vocals. Maybe a few other, you know, extra tracks here and there. But I feel like, yeah, it's a lot more, I guess, authentic rather than throwing a whole bunch of things on there.
Yeah, off the cuff and emotional. But at the same time, it was kind of showing you what was to come, I guess, of the band. Because, I mean, it's set up very much like a My Chemical Romance album. You had a very kind of sentimental and emotional start to the album. And then the last song, I Never Told You What I Do for a Living, is a very aggressive and very in-your-face song that's kind of supposed to be the climax of the whole album. And I feel like My Chemical Romance did this same thing with the Black Parade, with Famous Last Words. The last song.
I love that one. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, exactly. The last song is kind of the climax or the last words of the whole album. And so they always tried to push and give you a very good song at the very end.
Yeah, and then so the singles on this one are, of course, Helena, and then I'm Not Okay, I Promise. And then the third single is The Ghost of You, which is my personal favorite off of this particular album.
Yeah, it has a very good build-up at the end, and it's just a beautiful song. It's aggressive and yet so mellow and emotional throughout the whole song. And another thing is, I'll let you tell this because you were the one that brought it up to me.
Yeah, so if you don't know, today's June 6th, and June 6th in 1944 was a significant day during World War II. That was the invasion of France by the Allies into Nazi-occupied France, you know, on D-Day. And this song, they kind of, you know, in their music video, it's D-Day theme. You know, it starts off with the band. They're at a dance floor back in 1944, and I assume, and it makes it look like it's the night of June 5th before the soldiers go out to war. And like all the men and the soldiers are in their uniform on one side, and all the girls are all dressed up and dolled up on the other side, and they're all just like waiting, you know, for the music to start so they can start dancing to it. But they're all very somber, they're all very serious because they know what's going to happen the next day. But they're out there, you know, partying and celebrating, you know, at least trying to, because they're trying to have a good time before they go off to war. And it just, the dichotomy of that music video and with the music, oh my gosh, it starts off so, you know, melodic and sweet, and then just the hard distorted guitars when it shows them on the beaches of Normandy. Wow. It really hits you hard, and it's called The Ghost of You. So, I mean, like, they're talking about, you know, like, I'm here with you, but I'm going off to war, and hopefully, you know, I'll come back to you. Maybe I won't, you know, it's all up in the air. So,
yeah, it's a kind of a sad song, actually. I love it to death, and I love this whole record. But yeah, I think you described that very well. Like, they're getting ready to go out to war, and they don't know that when they get there, they're going to be met with a lot of force, you know, and a lot of them are going to die. And so they're trying to have as much fun as they can before they leave the next day. But it is kind of like a somber and foreboding tone.
Yeah, because there's also a scene in the music video where all the bandmates, they're all soldiers who are going to go out to the war. And they're at the bar, you know, the night before. And one of the band members, you know, he's just like staring at, like, into nothing at the bar. And he's like, I don't know if I can do this. And then the singer comes up to him, puts his hand on his shoulder, like, hey man, you got this, I got your back out there. And then they're on the beaches of Normandy, and they storm the beach, and then that bandmate, you know, who was, you know, having those second thoughts and all that stuff, he gets shot, and Gerard Way tries to go up and try and save him, but then he has to leave him behind as he dies on the beach there. And when I think about it, it's like, man, I mean, just imagine how many times that happened on the beach there, you know, where somebody knew somebody and they went on the beach and they died and they had to leave him behind.
Yeah, it really pulls on your heartstrings. And the fact that today is June 6th, and, you know, we just kind of wanted to give a shout out and in remembrance of all of the soldiers who died on this day in order to give us our freedom here in America.
Yeah, it's something that, you know, that we here at Transmitter, we highly value, because without those freedoms, we wouldn't be able to do something like this.
Exactly. And to get into another song I really enjoy on the record, there's a song called Cemetery Drive. And, here I'll read some of the lyrics really fast. It says, "This night walk the dead in a solitary style and crash the cemetery gates in the dress your husband hates. Lay down, mark the grave, where the searchlights find us drinking by the mausoleum door, and they found you on the bathroom floor. I miss you so far, and the collision of your kiss that made it so hard. Their songs just have a way of making a story. It's very much like poetry, and it's typically dark, and I mean that's where they get their goth punk sound, I guess you could say. But you know, some of their lyrics are just so deep and meaningful to me. Do you have any lyrics that you like on the album?
Honestly, the ones I like the most are from The Ghost of You. I had to look it up real quick. Anyways, so The Ghost of You, it starts off, I never said I'd lie and wait forever. If I died, we'd be together. I can't always just forget her, but she could try. You know, meaning like she should move on if I die.
Yeah.
It says, at the end of the world, or the last thing I see, you are never coming home, never coming home. Could I, should I? And all the things that you never, ever told me, and all the smiles that are ever, ever, ever gonna haunt me. Get the feeling that you'll never ever all alone, and I remember now, at the top of my lungs, in my arms, she dies, she dies. And then it goes in the chorus again, and then it says, and all the things that you never told me, all the smiles that are ever gonna haunt me, never coming home, could I, should I? I mean, and all the wounds that are ever gonna scar me, for all the ghosts that are never gonna catch me. And then it repeats the same thing over and over, but you know, it's just talking about, you know, how like, you know, we're facing this hard thing, you know, and that I couldn't imagine facing something like that. The prospect of going to war and never coming back and leaving behind a loved one, something like that. I mean, especially, you know, I'm getting married next month, and if the US broke into war and I had to leave for war, I don't know if I would be able to do that emotionally.
Yeah, and their lyrics, like, they're very vague and yet at the same time very descriptive. Like, these set of lyrics are from the song To the End. And Nick, let me know if this kind of paints a picture about what he's trying to tell his listeners. It says, she keeps a picture of the body she lends, got nasty blisters from the money she spends. She's got a life of her own, and it shows by the Benz. She drives at 90 by the Barbies and Kens. If you ever say never too late, I'll forget all the diamonds you ate. Lost in coma and covered in cake. Increase the medication, share the vows at the wake. Kiss the bride. To me, that kind of paints a picture of someone. It says she keeps a picture of the body she lends, got nasty blisters from the money she spends. So like a woman, you know, it sounds like that has hurt him, that might be very beautiful.
Well, it sounds like, at least for what I think, when it says, you know, you got a picture of a body that you keep. Is that what it says?
Yeah, a picture of the body she lends.
I mean, like, from that line alone, it sounds like, you know, she probably, you know, might be a prostitute or something like that.
Yeah.
But she's in a relationship, well, whether she's dating or she's married, and her husband doesn't like it, but you know, she does it so that she can have the money and live the high life. But when she does all those things to live that high life, it just diminishes, I guess, maybe, you know, who she is and her soul and things like that, you know, because, you know, it says, you know, all the diamonds that you ate, like, I mean, you don't really eat diamonds. It's kind of, you know, like just imagery of showing you like you try and do all this stuff, but it's bad for you.
Yeah. Well, and it says, you know, if you ever say never too late, I'll forget all the diamonds you ate. So like he obviously cares about her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. They just have a way with their lyrics of telling grand stories with a couple sentences, I feel like. So it's very cool, and I really love this album. It's probably one of my favorite albums of all time. So I'm really happy that we were able to talk about it today.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of great ones on here. Like, I really liked Thank You for the Venom, Helena. That one was one I didn't like before, but I love it now. But yeah, I mean, it's a great album. The Ghost of You, I'm Not Okay, I Promise. It's a really great album overall. And I think if you want to get into My Chemical Romance without jumping into their peak, which is the Black Parade, this would definitely be one to check out, I would say.
Yeah, it's a good starting point, I feel like. And if you are into goth and punk rock, I mean, this is probably one of the very best albums. So
yeah, I would rank them up there with other, you know, punk grains like Green Day or things like that.
Yeah. iEngraveStuff.com is a local engraving service based in Linden, Utah. If you want an amazing engraving done on one of your personal belongings, get in touch with one of their specialists today. You might meet McKay, who is one of the main brains of the operation. He's also one of our close friends and the drummer of Nick's band Blix 10. Follow their Instagram page to stay in touch with the latest news for I Engrave stuff. And be sure to type in TP10 in all caps in the promo code box when you're shopping online at their store.
I really enjoy their work. They make engraving look easy when it actually has quite a few factors that come into play. Many things can switch and cause a problem, but the pyros at I Engrave stuff have it down to a science. They are continually improving their craft, which has been cool to see. If you want in on this action, look up I Engrave Stuff on Instagram, Facebook, and iengravestuff.com.
Yep, that's the letter I,
and then engrave,
and then stuff.
iengravestuff.com.
So yeah, I mean, we just kind of wanted to share a couple albums that we've been listening to recently and that we're passionate about and that we thought would be worth talking about before we say our goodbyes to rock.
No.
I'm honestly a little upset. I'm a little sad. It's been such a fun run, and I feel like we've learned a lot through our first set of episodes here. What were your favorite episodes that we've done so far, Nick?
Well, obviously, my favorite to talk about was obviously 3 Days Grace, because that's my all-time favorite band, and just I have a vast knowledge about them. I could talk about them on the fly better than any other artist out there. So it was really fun to share my knowledge and passion about them and the music and what that means to me. So that one probably was my favorite to record, although doing the one with my dad was a close second. And of course with your mom too, I really enjoyed that one too, and seeing how she kind of influenced your styles and taste of music like my dad did with me. So those ones were fun. It was also fun to do that Linkin Park episode with Joe. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of great episodes that we did out there. I mean, we also did a great one with McCabe. We did one with Jordan, with John as well. I mean, we had a lot of people on here. So
yeah, for our first 11 episodes, I feel like we got some pretty interesting guests on the show. So, and yeah, I feel like some of my favorites. I really like the Linkin Park episode. It's one of our most listened to episodes, and I think that the chemistry with you and I and Joe was really fun and really great. Mm-hmm. The episode with McKay was super fun as well. I really liked the Music Technology 101 episode.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
with Joe, that was a good time. I love the episode with my mom and your dad just because it was cool to see where we came from, I guess. And I feel like our production had gotten a little better by that point. So the quality sounds a little better on those. And yeah, it's been such a fun run so far. And we are kind of thinking that we will be headed into hip hop here. And with everything going on right now, maybe it is a good time to talk about some of the music from the African American culture. There's a lot of oppression going on right now, and it's a rough time politically and for the economy. And we wanted to say a little bit about that really fast. We just wanted to say that, we stand with our brothers and sisters of, the Black and African American communities. We think that everybody should be treated with equal rights, just like, we all should in this country. I mean, yeah, America has not had the greatest history when it comes to, people of different backgrounds. But, that's the great thing about America. We learn and we strive and we progress, and we want to stand with everybody, that you're not alone. We want to hear your voices, and we want your voices to be heard. Yeah, and although some of these protests and these riots are getting pretty violent, and, violence is never a good way to solve anything. It is somewhat understandable. And, like Nick said, we stand with the African American culture. But for the good police officers out there that, are just and righteous about serving justice to the people of America, we stand with them as well, I think. Yeah, and I just want to say one thing about that, because I don't want us to give the mixed message of like we stand, with people of color, but also we stand with
the cops and, blue lives and all that stuff. We want to support everybody. We don't think we necessarily need to be choosing sides. When we're all in the same time, we're all from the same country. We're all Americans, and we shouldn't be fighting like there is sides. Like, I don't think that every single cop is racist, and I don't think that every single black person in this country is a hooligan who doesn't listen to the law or anything like that. I think there's just been not everybody can fall under the same stereotypical category of like a donut loving cop or a black kid from the hood or something like that. I think we all have different backgrounds and situations, and it's hard just to say this is the way it is and this is terrible, and and all of those people from whatever side you're talking from are all bad. I mean, like, there's good people from all sides.
Yeah, and we all just need to treat each other with love and kindness. And I do think that to some extent our system is, as far as policing, is kind of systemically corrupt in some ways, and maybe needs to be revisited and revised. And hopefully as time passes, we can work out those kinks and we can all live together happily and equally as people.
Yeah, and so just was saying that we want to leave you, like we always do, with some lyrics. And there's a song from Saint Tisonga from their recent album Flawed Design that also going back, talking about our roots, saying goodbye to rock and roll. I feel like it touches on that, but it also talks about all those who have suffered from all the injustices that are going on right now in this country. It's called The Fallen.
Well, and it also throws back to Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Going back with our roots in rock, Adam Gontier wrote this song for musicians, who tragically we lost to suicide. Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell, and I know he wrote it for one other person. I can't remember their name that Adam Gontier was kind of close to. But I also feel like that the lyrics can also, reach out to all those who are feeling, those social and civil injustices in the country right now. And also, it can represent those, who have fallen, like how we talked about. Today is the anniversary of D-Day, all those people who have fought, and served in the armed forces, whether it's in the military or as a local, law enforcement and things like that. We want to honor the fallen, of whatever category that is, whether it's mental health, civil rights, or whether it's, the tragedies of war. And so I'm just going to go ahead and read those lyrics. I remember the way it felt, your voice inside my head, like an ocean crashing waves punching through my hull. And the day I tried to live, I understood it all. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you now? It's the way life goes. When we are waking, we get taken. No one knows. No, I don't believe it. I can't believe it. I sing for the fallen. I sing for the fallen. I sing for the falling. You had so much left to say, fighting for your life some way. Now your memory is crawling in my skin all day.
Yeah, I think that puts together a good picture of how a lot of people are feeling right now. And gosh, I didn't want to end our season on such a solemn note. But we aren't trying to make this solemn. We're just trying to reach out and, hopefully let people know that it will be okay. All of this will pass, and music is a great way to let out your emotions and work through stuff like this that's going on.
Yeah, so, and if any of you guys are out there who are listening right now, if you feel like you're stuck in a place and no one is hearing you and you just need a place to talk and listen, reach out to us, and we would love to just talk to you and be there for you.
Yeah,
because that's another thing what this song is about. It's about those who have fallen to suicide or mental illness and things like that cause other horrific tragedies in other people's lives as well.
Yeah, and definitely feel free to reach out to us. You can email us. You can send in a voice message. If you send in a voice message to us, we can even include it on future shows maybe. Just be sure to be polite. But yeah, guys, it has been so fun to go through this first season with you. And thank you for everyone who has listened. And, hopefully you all enjoyed this, and hopefully you learned something over the course of it. I know I have, for sure.
Yeah, so thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you on the next episode where we're talking about most likely hip-hop, and we hope you guys have enjoyed this as much as we have.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.